that you're here, and we're really, really, I'm feeling really grateful for all of you and you know, your insights that you're bringing to all of us, and we really want to know how we can continue to support you and how to do these better. So please always let us know that. So today we're really delighted to have Paige Bredencamp and Heather Fleming with us to talk a little bit about how we think about developing language and literacy in kind of an informal context. And so I think what we're going to try to do is I'm going to introduce Heather first, and she's going to give a little background. And then we thought it might be useful to also really hear from each of you about activities that you're doing or things that you're thinking about, so that we can all, but also you can get feedback specifically from Paige and Heather about ideas of things you could do to really extend language development. And then Paige, I'm hoping you can talk a little bit about resources at the state library that are available online for anybody who might like to access those. So, and we'll kind of play it by ear depending on how the conversation is going. If it's a rich discussion altogether, we might remain as a big group, or we'll break for a couple of small group conversations about questions or ideas that we can then bring back together at the end. So we'll kind of play it by ear depending on how the energy of the conversation is going. So, but with that, I'll introduce Heather Fleming. Heather is a co-founder of WYAA, which is based in Cheyenne and works on helping support reading instruction, especially with struggling readers. And Heather, I've asked her to talk a little bit about her story and then give some kind of opening topics or opening remarks. With that, I'll put myself on mute.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with this group. And I look forward to joining it as more of a participant in the future. So as Michelle said, my name is Heather Fleming, and I started my career actually as a bond trader on Wall Street for 15 years, having very little to do with literacy except for a lot of yelling, which I'm super good at. And then I had a kid who couldn't read, and I had no idea what that meant. I, was told by teachers that he was just slow and he would catch up, and, they wouldn't test him for a learning disability. And finally we forked out when he was in 3rd grade and wanted to die. We finally forked out the money to have him privately tested. And it turns out he's dyslexic, which I will share sort of signs and symptoms of toward the end, if that's useful to this group. I would also add that I know that there are educators on here, and I would love you to jump in if you have something to add, or if you think I say something that is not useful, please do jump in. So I'd love this really to be, as Michelle said, a brainstorming conversation, where if there are challenges that you're running up against, in general, but specifically now because of this distance stuff, related to learning and supporting kids, I think it would be really fun for us to brainstorm about some creative ideas of how to address those problems. What I really want you to take away from this is that whether or not you have a background in how to teach reading, you have the ability, in whatever way you interact with kids, and regardless of their age, to contribute to their broader language development. You don't have to be a teacher of reading to really impact their ability to be successful in this domain. And in fact, often it is the outside influences that help support that part of a kid's development. So here's why, and this is the only research I'll talk about. There are 2 researchers who established an idea called the simple view of reading. And it is meant to do exactly what it says, to kind of describe in ways that anybody can understand what is required for successful reading comprehension, which is the ultimate goal of reading. So they really put it into 2 buckets. They said, kids have to be able to read the words on the page, to get the words off the page. They also have to be able to understand the words they're getting off the page. Again, it seems really oversimplified when it's stated like that, but it helps you think about the different kinds of sub-skills underneath the kids having to get the words off the page and the kids having to understand the words on the page that are needed to be a successful reader. And the place that I think this group can most support kids is really in the understanding the words that they are reading. And I'll give you an example. I think it's probably clear that the best gift you can give a child is to read to them. And the reason is that, kids who maybe don't grow up in a household where they're being spoken to a lot, or they don't grow up in a household where they're being spoken to about sort of diverse things, or they're not read to, these kids miss out on not only the development of the part of their brain which deals with oral language, but also the vocabulary and the background knowledge that they need. Even if they can read the words on the page, they have to have the vocabulary and background knowledge to understand it. We learn based on what we already know. And so having that base of knowledge to build upon is really important. An example of that might be a student is reading a story about World War I, and they come across the word battery. Do they understand? Do they have the background knowledge to understand that the word battery can literally mean the thing that they put in their dingle hopper that they play games with? And it can be something that refers to artillery, right? Like that is, fairly sophisticated background knowledge. And sometimes we assume that kids have this and they don't, and they present as if they have a reading comprehension problem when really they have a vocabulary problem. In reading to them, you also give them exposure to more complex text. Research has shown that even sort of the most simple children's book often has more complex grammar and syntax, kind of the way the words are put together, than adult spoken language. And so you want the kid to have exposure to that, not only the vocabulary and background knowledge, but also the complexity that exists in written text. So this is where Paige, the resources that Paige will share are really important, because you obviously can't be there reading to them all the time, but you can help them access free Audible resources. And the state library just has some of the most incredible resources I've ever seen. So I'm really excited that she's on here to talk about that.
Thank you, Heather. Excellent.
It's so true. And as kids get into higher grades, third grade, for example, math and science become a lot of Greek and Latin based words, right? So kids who are maybe struggling to get the words off the page to begin with also struggle with vocabulary in these areas. And again, they may appear as if they're not doing well in science or not doing well in math, when in fact they understand that concept very well, but the vocabulary is hanging them up. I don't know if you've experienced trying to do math homework with some of your kids. So I have an 8th grader. He's doing pre-algebra. I vaguely remember the term pre-algebra. I couldn't tell you how to do anything. And I'm supposed to help him with his math homework. Rather than try to reteach myself all of the pre-algebra, what I do for him is try to help him break apart the vocabulary words in what he's doing. So he had a word, reflection, which had to do with how you draw something on a graph and then draw its mirror image. And I didn't really understand how to do that, but I was able to break apart the word into reflect and then ION, and help him just understand what the vocabulary word meant, which then made the concept sync with him better. So, in 3rd grade, a regular 3rd grade science word is biosphere. So let's say you're doing homework with your, a 3rd grader and it's science. You can do kind of word history and word studies with them, which does just as much good as actually doing the science work with them, just building their, again, vocabulary and background knowledge. Again, at the end, if it's useful, I would love to share examples of sort of how to identify kids who may be at risk for reading difficulties, based kind of on, pre-K, maybe 1 through 3, kind of at different grade levels, because I think you all serve a number, like a broad variety of ages of kids. But right now, I would love to open it up to just hear about the things you're working on with kids and things that are hard for you right now, and that we as a group could try to, help you brainstorm some ideas to support your work.
Anybody want to talk about some of your activities, and we could maybe talk about how to integrate language or other kind of fun stuff in.
And if not, I am always here for you. Call me. I will. This is all I think about. I'm happy to help you iterate any time of day or night about anything that you're struggling with respect to kids and kind of building literacy skills.
So I know, I don't know if anybody on the phone, is anybody doing homework help or tutoring is a part of your after school activity? Make sure you get yourself off mute if you're talking. Julia, not to put you on the spot, but I'm wondering if you would talk a little bit about your YouTube channel. We've highlighted it in the email, but it'd be interesting to hear maybe also about some ideas of how you could build on that too, or other ideas. Would you mind telling the group about that?
Sure thing. So right now I have reached out to the community and asking multiple community members in various different departments, such as the fire department and the EMS department and the hospital, school board, teachers and such, and parents as well, to just read an elementary book each day. And I post it on our Facebook page. And it's a pretty big hit right now. And so I just think that right now, with everyone getting frustrated and overwhelmed, that seeing that familiar face, just with a simple elementary book, it brightens everybody's day. So it's going very well. And that's basically it right now. I don't know how to really expand on that, but if you have any ideas, I would love to hear that, or any other recommendations to further that specific activity.
Do you have it on YouTube, Julia?
I have it on our Lights on Facebook page.
Oh, okay. So
and I can definitely link that.
It's there whenever people want to look at it. It's not a specific time.
Yep. So I try to do, well, my original idea was to do one in the morning and one in the evening, because sometimes kids are at home without parents, and I wanted to be able to entertain them. But it started off pretty slow. And so I didn't have enough to post one in the morning, one in the evening. And so I'm just doing an afternoon one. And I usually have one each day via email. I think the biggest difficulty is getting a video that is larger than 4 minutes sent over email. I don't know how that's still a struggle in 2020, but somehow it is still just a nightmare trying to send larger videos to another person. So that's the biggest struggle of it, but I could definitely put the link for our Facebook page, and you can like it and you can see all the videos.
That'd be good.
That's a brilliant idea. That's a wonderful idea, Julia. I would love to be able to share that. And if you need someone to read, I'd love to read books for you.
Absolutely.
Not that my face means anything to them, but like that, it's true. Like we all just need a little comfort right now, including children, and reading to them it's such, on so many levels, it's just the biggest gift. I just, if anyone, yeah, it's amazing.
Paige, would you talk a little bit about the state library and the resources that are available through the state library network?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Paige Bredencamp. I'm the school library consultant at the Wyoming State Library. And with that, I primarily work with school librarians, but also youth service librarians. The Wyoming State Library gets money, like every state library or state library organization gets federal money from the Library Services and Technology Act from the federal government. Different states do different things with their money. Some of the states filter that out into mini grants. Some of the states put it into different activities, resources. Wyoming funnels that money into the gowild.net database portal. And I'm sorry, Kate, I should have given the link to you when you asked for the links, but it's gowild.net, GOWYLD.net. In fact, I can put that in the chat as well. But through that, that's a database portal, and it's a plethora of databases, research resources, literacy resources, all geared towards research, learning, entertainment, and it's all free. It's free to every Wyoming resident with library cards. It's also free to every educational campus. So if you're like at a K-12 school or you're at higher ed, you're on campus, you can access that for no charge. If you're in a library, you can access these resources. And relevant to today's discussion, we have the K-8 section. There's a whole page of resources devoted to kids from pre-K to 8. So if you go to gowild.net and find kids K-8 and you click on that, it'll take you to a LibGuide or a page with the resources relevant to literacy and learning. And that includes Britannica Online for young kids, which those resources will tailor the articles for reading levels. And most of the research databases will also read the articles if that's what you choose to do. There's also some EBSCO resources like Kids Info Bits, some Gale resources. There's Bookflix. This is a big one. This is one of our favorites for the younger set, and that is where they get a fiction book and a nonfiction book, and they pair them because they're similar topics. They also, in that particular resource, there's videos that go with the books, and not just the page and somebody's reading the story. It's actually, they've turned these picture books into videos, which are really fun. And Bookflix, you can read on your own, or it can read to you, but it also highlights vocabulary. It highlights the word that you're on. And that's really fun for younger kids. We have National Geographic Kids, which offers videos, as well as the National Geographic for Kids magazines. So those are fun. That captures interest from the kids because it's animals. And, I think we've all seen National Geographic and National Geographic Kids, especially if we're educators. Those are hugely popular with kids. And those are also available on gowild.net for free. And it's a fabulous resource. There is also, to jump over to something that we're doing right now during this time, there is a LibGuide that I put together, and it is a list of free for now resources, which includes Tumble books. It includes the free Audible audiobooks that Audible has made available for young kids. This is a great time to try out these resources because the way we choose the gowild.net resources is through a shared purchases committee, which I sit on, and our database instruction librarian, Chris Van Berg, sits on. But it's made up of librarians from around the state from all sectors. So we have public librarians, school librarians, academic librarians, and a librarian from UW. And they're located throughout the state. And what we do is pay attention to what patrons are using, what patrons are asking for, what educators are asking for. And then we meet each month and we talk about the resources that people really want. What types of resources, maybe specific resources, and we look at those and we trial them, and we recommend the state library whether or not to get these resources. So this is a great opportunity for if you are looking for more early literacy and literacy in general resources, now's a good time to look at some and then give us feedback. But going back to the gowild.net resources, we also have books in Cloud Library, which is an ebook platform. And it ranges from everything like early readers, chapter books, young adult, nonfiction, fiction. If you haven't tried out Cloud Library, again, it's free. Thousands upon thousands of books available. On that K-8 page, there is a carousel of books from Cloud Library dedicated to children. So you go into Cloud Library and you're going to get everything. So you might hesitate to send a child into Cloud Library just to pick something because everything's available. But on this K-8 page, that carousel, list books that are just for children. So that's really a nice feature. The State Library also offers RB Digital, which includes audiobooks, and there are some audiobooks for children. There are also magazines in RB Digital, but I was just looking in there today, and there weren't a lot for kids right now, but that fluctuates because that is dependent on libraries putting in, okay, they want this magazine, they'll purchase it. All of the libraries have the capability of purchasing magazines, audiobooks, ebooks. So if there is something that you want, talk to your local library, because chances are they will be very excited to get your suggestion and also be able to get that resource for you. And another thing, a lot of the databases like the Kids InfoBits, Britannica, the Gale resources, they do offer lessons, they offer games, several of them offer scavenger hunts. And again, on that K-8 page, those have been broken out, and so you can click on a link like the Kids InfoBits Fossils Scavenger Hunt, and you can click on that link and start it. And it's just really fun. It's fun games, and these are really fantastic resources, and they are free. They're free for anybody in Wyoming.
That's great, Paige. Thank you. I'm curious, you know, also kind of coming back around to just sort of just kind of hearing from practitioners and youth workers, how at this point, how are you all kind of integrating like literacy or language or into your programming, or how are you thinking about doing that as you think about you know, future programming? It'd be great. I don't want to. I'll try not to call anybody out because that's terrible, but watch out. Does anybody have any thoughts about how you're doing that now, or things you're thinking about wanting to do, but you're kind of puzzling about at the moment?
Yeah, like we're doing something similar to what Julia shared. As far as people doing some read alouds, we actually just this week had some of our site staff start doing that to our Facebook page. And again, as Heather discussed, kind of that familiarity with our staff and those kiddos being able to see those familiar faces and having that sense of comfort. And then we also started this week our Zoom one-on-one tutoring with our staff. And to be completely honest, 6 weeks ago, we were all worried about, you know, how we were going to get hours and continue work and things like that. And I think that as a staff, we've worked more in the last 6 weeks. You know, we're not having any trouble getting hours in and things like that. And in fact, it's been so much so we haven't even had time to debrief as a staff this week about that first week of tutoring and how it's going. But our staff has been excellent as far as stepping up and taking on roles and being willing to, you know, find activities and put some of their spin on things and their interests on things. And so it's been a lot of fun. We haven't done anything too formal, too in-depth as far as the academic end goes. We've tried to keep it more on the enrichment end of things with the e-learning and things that students are doing now. But I think it's going well so far. I'll find out for sure next week when we have our staff meeting, but it sounds like it is going well.
That's great. Well, and actually, I mean, I'd love for Heather to kind of speak to this, because I think one of the things for me, this is also where you all are the experts in developing those relationships and thinking about how, as you're having those experiences, you really are, in fact, helping kids in their language development. And I just, because Heather, would you maybe talk a little bit about that?
So as I also realized I completely forgot to do like the second half of my intro because my Ritalin wears off like right at 2 o'clock. And I start to squirrel. So when my son was diagnosed, he was really not in a good place emotionally. And my husband and I decided that my son and I would move to Colorado for him to attend a school for dyslexic kids to catch him up. My husband was working for then Treasurer Mark Gordon here in Cheyenne. So he stayed here and we commuted back and forth. While I was there, I began to do a deep dive into literacy instruction. And I started doing my master's in reading science, which I'm still completing. And so the point of when I came back, really, my goal was to empower teachers and parents with an understanding of what the research says are the best evidence-based kind of literacy practices K-12. So our nonprofit raises money to fund whatever, within certain parameters, whatever kind of training a teacher or an after-school provider or a tutor or a parent might want to do to improve their ability to support their kids. And Jessica, I'm sure that right now, like, the well-being of your children is really in the forefront of your mind, and just trying to support them emotionally, in addition to trying to help them with schoolwork. And so I have done quite a bit of online tutoring. And if any of your staff ever need just ideas for, both materials to kind of teach and practice, and also kind of things that can be done that are fun and engaging remotely for specific skills, that's the kind of thing that my partner Carrie and I have a lot of experience in, and we would love to the extent that you end up getting back to focusing more on academic stuff, we would love to support you in that, because I just can't, teachers and tutors having to recreate the educational wheel and then do it online, I can't imagine the sort of trauma and stress that teachers and people like you who are serving kids in different ways are experiencing and trying to maintain that. So I just, Michelle, I think, again, I rabbit holed, but anything you're doing with kids after school, if you need ideas about how to support them in their work, that's really our expertise. I wrote a reading law also in Wyoming that passed last year, and the Department of Ed hired us to write an implementation guideline for that. And so we're also involved at the Department of Ed and the University of Wyoming teacher prep level. And so additionally, I would love your thoughts on what you think is important if you are a teacher, what you wish you would have learned in undergraduate or your graduate class, what you think would be useful, ways that you think things could be done better from a state level. Those dialogues are happening actively. And so I would love to hear your any input that you have on that.
Heather, where can we read that law that you introduced?
I can email it to Michelle.
We will, yeah, we can send it out after the call to everybody, just with a link.
The issue is that on the legislative website, it's still, for reasons that are unclear to me, it's still kind of redlined and it's hard to read. So I have a copy that I got from the Legislative Services Office. It's clean. Yeah, and then we can talk about it. It's not perfect. It is the best we could do with all the constituent parts. As you can imagine, it was complicated. And what I really would love to do is go through it with teachers and say, what part of this needs to be improved? What part of this doesn't make sense? How do we make it better? How do we make it more useful to you and empowering to you as a teacher, right? So I would love that feedback if you're interested.
Thank you. Other questions or ideas that you all have? Keith, I know you sent out little greenhouses last week, and I think about all of the things around language that can be kind of integrated into something like that, and growing and measuring. So I'm thinking about those ways that we all do this, but maybe don't even know it at this moment, in terms of really helping kids think three-dimensionally about the things they're doing.
I might have to send a thing to Paige at Go Wild and have them research their seeds or something, on vegetables and stuff. So that would get the literacy in there.
That's great.
That would be awesome.
Other oops, go ahead.
Share. So I have been still trying to keep with some of the stuff that we were doing when school was in session, and I really like Right Brains. So every week on Monday, I share a Right Brains lesson activity. I just, I don't know how many of them actually watch it. Hopefully they do. And then, so I read the lesson to them and encourage them to take part in the activity. We also do Every Monday Matters, so I guess that's Monday. Also, my high school staff has started a book club.
Oh,
And
awesome.
yeah, so on Thursdays, I let my 2 high school staff and my 1 after school professional, they still do their Thursday club. And so they record themselves and then post it. And my 1 high schooler, she started reading a book, which actually ties into her club, which is Girls in Pearls and Guys in Ties, where it's like an open platform of just talking about things that might be going on in their lives or that have gone on in other people's lives. And so she started reading the book yesterday, and it was great. I mean, she read a chapter of the book that she's going to read to everybody. So I thought that was
That's
great.
fantastic.
Yeah. And then on my Google Meet, I guess we do a Google Meet once a week with the middle schoolers. And the first 2 were just like kind of really crazy and chaotic when they're just all talking. And so I went ahead and went on a walk while I was doing, and more like supervise it so that I can maintain what's happening and what's being said. And then it kind of got a lull. So I read 20 weird facts about Earth Day to them. So
That's a great
So,
idea.
Rachel, you may not know this, or you may, and maybe this is why you do it, but in brains with dyslexia, normally people who don't have dyslexia process language in their left hemisphere. People who have dyslexia use their right hemisphere to process language, which it's not meant to do, which makes things complicated. But they tend to be very creative in ways that are kind of, you sort of go, oh my gosh, like they came up with solutions and sort of artistic creations that are really interesting. So to the extent that you're doing sort of right brain activities, with or without knowing it, you're probably really engaging kids who maybe are struggling readers in a way that I'm sure that they value more than you probably even know.
Thank you.
So Emily, you just happen to be in the middle of my screen. So I'm curious if from your perspective, I know you guys are doing really wonderful things in Du Bois, and I'm just curious what your thoughts are, things that are happening there that are related to sort of helping language and literacy.
I'm going to have to apologize real quick. My fan on my computer is making a lot of noise. So if you hear a droning, it's my computer.
No
Unfortunately, I can't get it fixed right now. But so at the Boys and Girls Club, I am actually an AmeriCorps member with the Boys and Girls Club of Du Bois, and I'm really excited to be a part of this roundtable. We kind of have a legal hurdle to jump through. We cannot directly email our kids. We can call them, or we post on Facebook, Instagram, and we have a YouTube channel as well, but we cannot do direct contact over the internet and over email with our kids. So we really have been working around designing short videos, because there is a problem with sending large files and getting those. But we work with the Boys and Girls Club of Central Wyoming. We're part of them. And we are posting videos for the kids to watch. And we're just kind of hoping that and trying to get that resource out to as many kids as possible. So we're really looking for ideas to help with more academic work, like STEM projects and literacy, writing. So we really want short, fun, and super engaging programs that we can do and hope that they get involved with it, because there's no way for us to track and encourage via any meetings or emails or things like that. So if you have suggestions along those lines.
And Emily, I think something that could be really cool, and I'd love anyone in this group who wants to be involved. So I'm working right now with the Department of Education and the University of Wyoming to do a summer virtual conference it's really focused on K-3 reading, but a lot of kids who are struggling end up having problems that actually still fall into kind of K-3 instruction. And because it's virtual, we have tremendous flexibility in terms of the number of speakers we have and the diversity of speakers we have. And I wonder if so I want to the speakers to all be required to, if they're talking about vocabulary, to either to basically demonstrate what a distance vocabulary lesson looks like. And I wonder if we could do a breakout session for providers like you, sort of really specific to what you're looking for, right? Like here, you are very able to articulate exactly what you need. And I know some folks who would be incredible at addressing that. I'd love to iterate with you on some fun things to do, but I wonder if we could tie that into this as part of the conference, if that interests you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are a small staff in Du Bois. We have 150 kids, K through 12, and there's only 3 of us working full-time at the Boys and Girls Club. So we are open to any and all opportunities to really expand our program and get more information and more connections. So 100%. Definitely.
Okay, great. Awesome.
And we'll work with Heather to see how we can formulate a couple of those opportunities. That's fantastic. Great. Well, we're at 2:37. I think I'm going to have it, so maybe I'll do a show of hands. I think we'll do a quick small group check-in just to give everybody a chance to maybe visit. Kate, I'm going to ask if you can help with that. We'll just do like 5 minutes just to kind of check in with everybody and maybe just hear what they're doing. And if you could invite folks, and then we'll come back in about 5 minutes, if that's okay.
And Michelle, this is Micah, and I have to bop off again. Sorry, I've kind of been in and out. So Kate, don't worry about transferring the cell phone number.
Awesome. Thanks, Micah.
Thank you. Bye.
I was on a call this morning with people from all over the world, and we did this. It was the craziest thing. It was so cool.
Was it like different time zones and different, I mean, was it just nuts?
It was amazing, but it was just like this. We were just like, there were 5 of us on the call just like this, but one was in South Africa, one was in Switzerland. It was amazing.
That's crazy.
This thing called the Gaia Journey.
I need to know why Joan Evans still looks so put together through all of this. I'm a little like I'd like you to show up just a little schmutzy, like just a little bit.
Well, Heather, I was just envying her hair and her makeup as well.
Michelle has seen me in different forms, so she can attest to, it depends on the day. And I'm really not put together. Heather, you're way, way, way too kind.
I need you to fix this. Can you fix that?
No. Hello. I did cut my own bangs the other day though, which will be, interesting to fix on someone's behalf. I couldn't take it anymore, so.
This is the coolest group, Michelle. I'm so I feel really warm and fuzzy and connected to new people who I didn't know, and I'm really glad I know now.
Awesome. So, well, how were your breakouts, and what did you learn? What were some of the things that came out of your discussion? I'll start because I thought this was really fascinating. It was like a big lesson for me. So Julie was talking about the different things that have been successful at different ages, and she was talking about elementary being really super interested in hands-on activities and packets, whereas the middle school was much more like connected via clubs and things like that online, and that had been really cool. And it made me realize how, when we think about programming, whether it's literacy or anything else, really thinking about the development of those kids and how it does, obviously you guys know this, but how it changes over time, and that requires us to maybe think about our design in different ways. Like that middle school piece, it's so important for those kids to be social, and I've heard all of you talking so much about that in the past. And Rachel, you kind of spoke to that too in terms of your life, some of the things you're doing. But anyway, that was my big takeaway. Other things that you heard or ideas that you shared that were cool?
So I learned from Jessica. I asked people what they were doing, and that they are doing online tutoring, and that they've been fascinatingly kind of contacted by districts to reach out to some specific kids who, maybe they're on IEPs, maybe they just need a little bit of general support. I think that is it's really important work, and I'm so glad that people like Jessica are there doing that and supporting those kids. And then I learned from Kathleen and Casey some of what they're working on, and they serve kind of kids K-12, and we just talked about, I think there are some really things they're doing that teachers could learn from in terms of the read aloud work they're doing. And I'm hoping to be able to meet with them again, just to talk about things that maybe training I can do, and maybe just ideas that I could give them that could kind of just bolster the work that they're already doing. I'm so blown away by the kinds of programs you guys are developing and running. It kind of makes my eyes water. You're incredible human beings.
Well, and to that end too, I mean, one of the things I think we are seeing is that this is an opportunity for the out of school time realm to partner in ways that maybe we haven't in the past as it relates to really supporting districts. And for some of you who were on the call a few weeks ago, we had a district superintendent who said, you guys are the experts in hands-on, project-based, activity-based learning. And that's something in this moment where I think districts can really can use some help as it relates to that. So really appreciate that. Other thoughts or things that people learned or heard?
Well, one thing I wanted to mention, with the GoWild.net resources, I'd said that for remote access, if kids are at home, they need their library card. And while that is true, we do offer a generic login. And I put it in the chat. The username is WYOSchool, WYOSCHOOL, and the password is WYLD, WYLD. So there are some kids that don't have library cards, and at this time, with libraries being closed, some libraries are offering virtual library cards, but not all are. But that is one way to get around not having a library card. Though at any given point in time, other than a pandemic, you would encourage you to send the kids to the library to get a library card. So so that's something that anybody really can use.
That's great. Thank you for that, Paige.
Does anybody here serve some of the reservation populations, or any, up kind of is anyone up in the Riverton, Lander, Ethity area? Okay, I did some professional development up there, and that was really that's hard and moving and complicated.
Yeah, we have Emily Smith has been on the call a couple times, and she's around Crowheart, but we should also, and we have had folks in the past, but not today. One thing, just maybe in closing, just a thought that I had from an earlier meeting today. The First Lady is inviting people to write letters or make cards to go to seniors, and people can send them to the First Lady's address, and then they are coordinating leaving them for the appropriate amount of time and then sending them out to communities around the state with senior centers. And so if ever if that were something that would be an activity or something that you might want to do, I did just put the address in the chat box, and we'll have some notes after this. It's kind of a cool project that they're doing to kind of connect with elders in this time when they really are very isolated. So, and could be kind of a nice tie to writing and literacy and language.
And Michelle, this is just a little aside. My super good friend Lisa Oswald is the administrator over the aging division, and they have a Facebook page that kind of ties in it. They have partnered with the First Lady on this project, and if any of you want to look up that Facebook page and friend it, there's just some very heartwarming things there when people have received the cards, and First Lady Gordon will kind of update and show how many cards she's received. And the other day she was giving boxes to the mailman to take out, post person to take out and send out to the center. So it's pretty cool to follow that effort. And they have pictures of young people being engaged, writing the notes and stuff. So it's pretty
What's
cool.
it called, Joan? What's the Facebook page?
It's the Wyoming Department of Health, Department of Aging Facebook page. Let me see if I can make that a little bit more easy. Wyoming Department of Health Aging Division. If you Google that, or if you search it on Facebook, it should come up. I don't know that they have tons of friends for that page, because I got a fan award for being like the #1 fan, and I'm like, I've just like hit like a couple times. So I think it'd be really cool for more people to get involved.
Oh, awesome. Great. Well, we're almost at our time. Any other things or aha moments that came out? I love being with everybody.
I just want to say personally, I love the Save with Stories. Jennifer Garner and tons of famous people are doing readings online. And I was saying in my group, like, I think it's so cool and important for kids to see that reading isn't just important for the teachers to tell you or your parents to tell you, but that other people who you may see on a screen or hear on the radio or whatever are also saying how important reading is, and they're actually reading books to kids for charity and stuff. So I love that. And the Governor Gordon, or sorry, First Lady Gordon and her initiative, the Boys and Girls Club, has been sending that out with kids and having like paper and stuff, because the school district in Natrona County is offering lunches, and the club is one place where they can pick up lunches. And so they're offering like take home crayons or paper or whatever that the kids can take home and make cards for seniors and then bring them back to the club so we can send them on to First Lady. Sorry, I've known Jenny and Mark my whole life, so it's so weird to say. I've known them my whole life. I used to babysit their kids, but that they're sending them on, and they're loving all the responses that they're getting. So,
oh, that's fantastic. That's great. Send some pictures, if you will, and we'll put them on our Instagram. So, and
there's some on our Facebook page, I believe.
Okay, awesome. And one thing I was going to say is that's my little shameless plug too, that any pictures that you have of great things that are happening, please send them along, and we'll elevate them in some of our work. So we love that. Great. And is it called Save with Stories? Sure. Okay, so I just put that in the chat. I just wanted to make sure that it was right. Good. Well, thank you so much. Any last questions or comments? Next Tuesday, we're gonna do kind of a similar conversation, but around kind of math. And I'm hoping to have with us a woman by the name of Petey McCarty, who is for many years did math recovery in the schools. Probably maybe some of you have heard of math recovery, and some other folks who can help us with fun ways to integrate math skills and concepts into programming, informal programming. So we'll do that next Tuesday, and share this with your friends. I feel like a YouTuber, and if you like this, press like. Anyway, thank you.
Wonderful.
But feel free to share this with others, and we love getting to cross pollinate. So thanks everybody, and keep us honest. Tell us how to do better. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Michelle
you.
and Kate and everyone else.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Heather. Good to
Bye.
see you.
Guys.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks, everybody.
Welcome.